So I thought I'd make a quick video and just share with you guys all the imaging that I received from tridactyls.org. This list right here covers it, what you're seeing on your screen right now. Um, there are different types of images here. There's some fluoroscopic images and maybe some CR images, but we'll take a look through to show you the difference, especially between Montserrat and Maria, what type of imaging is provided. So when this comes up in a 4-pane, like I pointed out on X, in the bottom right-hand corner of each image, you'll see SE1, SE2, SE3, SE4. Those are the series, which are represented at the bottom down here through the scrolling bar. So there's quite a few series with Montserrat. Bunch of different 3D windows were provided. What we'll do is we'll take a look at the 3Ds that were provided for Montserrat. This is kind of a bony, quasi-soft tissue, interesting window here that they chose. Amputations right here, right across the foot. Very obvious to my eye on these. Hence why I said, you know, they're great and everything, and they're cool to look at, but those axials really make a big difference. So there's spins. I think these are 2 spins, which just rotates your specimen in a circle. And then they provide tumbles, and the tumbles spin head over feet. So you can kind of get a better look. We can back out here. I wonder if it'll let us look at the bottom. There we go. You can see the surface is pretty irregular. Again, to me, to my eye, amputations right here. New metatarsals inserted. Trying to maintain some semblance of width with the remainder of the foot. So those are kind of like a bony / soft tissue window. And then this filter here, all those lovely green artifacts you see, those are all the metallic foreign bodies that were present on Montserrat. This helps you see those better. I believe that's a spin and then again a tumble. So that head over feet, which is pretty traditional. Let's see, the next window. This one and this orange one aren't a whole lot different. That orange color is very interesting, but here's your spin. Amputations again. Just like at that Lisfranc. And then a tumble. You can see the details not real great on these. There seems to be a discrepancy in the quality between what they release through tridactyls.org and what they actually put on the site. But to my eye, all of these, the amputations are pretty apparent on all of these. And none of these are really great. So that's why I say it's better. So this group here, this series 3, this is the 1mm slices. So we'll go ahead and change that to a lung window. And we'll do MPRs. So this will create three new series that won't be listed at that scroll bar at the bottom until it processes the MPRs. And then the only thing you will see are the MPRs that I'm asking it to process. So until we back out of that MPR window, you won't be back to the original folder with all of the groups of different images provided. So then this is Top Box Series 1, middle box series 2, bottom box series 3, tells you how many images it generated. So that top box is 1,246 images, and the two lower boxes are both 512. So we're going to switch to a 2-pane. Actually, yeah, we'll window a little bit. And you can see in that bottom left-hand corner that WL and WW, that's the window level and window width. That is what adjusts the contrast in my images and allows me to window based on the tissues I'm trying to look at. So this is Montserrat. So you remember what those 3D images look like. And this is all the detail that's lost when you're looking at those 3Ds. You don't see the bones. You don't see how the bones articulate. People seem to want to place a lot of value on those, but in reality, they're just one piece of the larger puzzle. They're actually more of an ancillary piece. When we look at images like this, especially in orthopedic cases, yeah, the 3D is great for planning surgery, but the real interest lies in the axials and the sagittals and the coronals. To actually map and see how terrible a fracture is, you can't use one without the other. Let's invert that. We use inversion of tissues on CT, or the inversion of densities, because it helps us see those soft tissues a little bit more. It gives us a little bit better differentiation. We can make that better. There we go. We bring back 2-pane. That orange line in the bottom box tells you where we are. So this is the right foot on Montserrat. Space between, coming into the left foot. Again, seeing that amputation right here. So that's what they look like, and this is why I say it's really important to have access to all of those images, and that the 3Ds have to be high quality in order for them to have diagnostic value. So you can see out of all of these groups that are provided with Montserrat, I mean, they're pretty ambiguous. None are really provided in a bony window. So we'll go back. Let's go back and look at Maria. So Maria and her CT group, we did not get the same level of information. They only provided one group of, if you look down here at the bottom at all our different series within this group, one 3D rendering. And I was kind of surprised because I figured, well, you know, they're going to try to give you as much information as possible, right? Well, no. And when I looked at these, I started to realize why. So in a normal human body, when we scan things like this, you can see that there's tissues and vasculature represented in these 3Ds that just somehow ends right at that tarso-metatarsal junction. What that tells me, it's really bad on this view to my eye. What that tells me, though, is that if there's no vessels, no tissue, how did those toes get blood flow? Aside from all the bony, you know, discrepancies and abnormalities. Like there's a lot of things about that image right there that other doctors and techs will probably look at and go, what? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But the one thing that really jumped out at my eye is all of those lovely vessels you see here just miraculously end. And there's none on the toes whatsoever. So I was surprised not to see, but then quickly understood why there weren't more 3D renderings of Maria in the information disseminated. So we can do the same thing here, looking at that. Let's see, we'll go to Series 3 here, and we will go ahead and take a look at the MPR. And if you'll notice, the series, the image numbers, what image I'm on, the window width and the window level remain in the bottom right and bottom left-hand corners of every box I'm working in. So anybody viewing these images, if they receive the same information from tridactyls.com or .org, excuse me, it should align. Now, when you do an MPR, again, it creates 3 new groups because you're telling it to manipulate that volumetric data again. So we'll take a look. Let's bring this up to 1 pane so we can see. And we'll do a little window work here. So compared to the 3D, that window actually showed us the bone and maybe did Maria a few favors, aside from the blatant malalignment of her metatarsals. So this metatarsal in particular, where that lines are passing through in each box, doesn't align with any articular surface at all. So the articular surface is here. The end of this bone is here. It should meet, the long axis of this bone should meet that articular surface here. First big red flag. I went, that's totally dislocated and below the foot. And then getting into this foot, transection of tissues right where that orange line is. Right here. These tissues should taper down to the toes, not end abruptly. So as we scroll through that foot, if you pay attention to that area, just cut straight across. And then as we move into the other foot, right here, same thing. And then that totally malaligned metatarsal. And again, series, image number, everything's still on the image. Let's go ahead and invert it. This helps show the amputation of tissues, I feel, a little bit better. So where the amputation occurred, it's right across that tarso-metatarsal junction here. Everything over here is fabricated. Can really see the tissue amputation. Here. So yeah, between Maria and Montserrat had a bunch more 3D groups. Maria, not so much, but once we took a look at them, we understood why. There's a reason I use the term arts and crafts. No vasculature whatsoever. Those joints are terrible. They make no sense. They wouldn't function, which is what me and Dr. Proctor were also seeing on a lot of these other images, is that, you know, there's just so many things wrong as far as functionality and consistency and congruency between specimens, even right down to the number of phalanges aren't even consistent between. And then the other stuff included, so we had some CR of Mumia. And that, if you look down at the bottom, it's series 1, and it says image 1 of 2, so there's only 2 images to look at for this one on the CR. And then they did, looks like some fluoroscopic images of Maria. And there's quite a few of these. Fluoroscopy we use in surgery, especially if we're trying to place implants or fix fractures with an orthopedic surgeon in real time using, prosthetics. So these are great when you're working in the OR. I don't know that most rads really would feel comfortable trying to make a diagnosis off of these. This is more a tool we use in the OR, and you can see why. I mean, the image quality is not great. So the CT matters. So on Mumia, they did, on Wawito, they did CT. And what's interesting is there is a 3D group for this one. It's very hard to tell exactly what happened to this. I'm assuming this was a baby. I mean, the whole thoracic cavity in the back is just open. And I don't know if I definitively even see a spine. So I know when I originally looked at these images, it almost looked like that skull didn't belong to that body, but it's very hard to tell because it's so damaged and so torn apart. So we do have a group down here. It looks like series 2. Take a look through these. You can see the face and the jaw, limbs, femur, tibia. Not great images. I see 5 metatarsals though in that foot. Same here. So, you know, some of the images are great. The beautiful thing is that if you've got those CT axials and that volume of data, you can create images. That's what CT is about. Reformations, multiplanar reformations. And also, again, this isn't the only imaging we had access to during our project, but in any of my videos, go to one pane just to make it easy here. Series, image number, window width, and window level are all visible in the pane. So for any other researchers or techs, doctors want to look at these, you can see exactly what group, what series I'm in, and what I'm looking at if you get the images from tridactyls.org. This was how they unzipped for me. And hopefully you guys understand a little better why those sagittals and coronals are so important. And we don't trust 3Ds on their own as a standalone to make any definitive diagnosis. And they would have to scan these mummies even thinner than what they did to really render high quality 3D. Again, like a 0.4 or 0.6 millimeter would probably do it as thin as you could possibly go to grab the most detail from the volume. Yeah, lots of options for Montserrat. But just one for Maria. And like I said, once we got a look, we kind of understood why. So, yep. So if I can show any more, if there's any other questions you have as far as where you can find image and series number and all that stuff, I feel like I've covered it pretty well in this video. Obviously, if you're getting information from other people, it's going to come in zip files, which are going to get downloaded to SD cards, and that's going to present in whatever way it unzips. So, but as far as tridactyls.org, this is what I got, and this is what they gave. So thanks, guys.